Welcome to the White Knight Theater. In 1994, the murder case involving African-American football star O.J. Simpson, who was suspected of killing his ex-wife, shocked the world and became known as the trial of the century. The twists and turns in the evidence, including the bloodstains found at the crime scene. How could such a punishment come to be? The intense and dramatic courtroom battles. No one would deliberately inject racial factors into the case, unless those factors were inherently present and dramatic. I once dreamed that I had killed Nicole. What made a single murder case captivate the entire American society? How could it draw 140 million people to watch the final verdict? Episode 1 of the crime drama with Dr. Lee, the Chinese-American detective, a superstar entangled in a murder scandal. On June 12, 1994, Nicole Brown, the ex-wife of renowned American football player O.J. Simpson, was brutally stabbed to death in her front yard. A young male waiter was also found murdered alongside her. At noon on June 13th, as Simpson rushed back to Los Angeles from Chicago, the police had already cordoned off his residence and interrogated him for hours, even before an official arrest warrant was issued. Once the media got wind of it, the suspicion that O.J. Simpson might have killed his ex-wife instantly ignited a firestorm of public opinion in the United States. Behind such swift and decisive action, did the police already have solid evidence pointing to Simpson's guilt, or were there other motives at play, given the tense racial tensions of the time? On June 15th, across the United States, ordinary people began to take to the streets, holding placards and forming different camps, engaging in large-scale confrontations like a ticking time bomb. As the O.J. Simpson case continued to escalate, with tensions running high, the person who would douse the sparks emerged in a laboratory at the Connecticut State Police Forensic Science Division. Dr. Lee, the lab director and chief forensic expert, was fully focused on his work, oblivious to the chaos outside. At his workstation, Dr. Lee carefully examined the evidence that would soon be presented in court using a magnifying glass. This was his daily routine as a forensic scientist. Forensic science, also known as forensic technology, is a discipline that emerged in the United States in the late 1960s. After arriving in the U.S. in 1964, Dr. Lee made this field his primary focus. He often used this analogy to describe his job. The courtroom process is like a symphony orchestra, with the judge as the conductor and lawyers and prosecutors as the musicians. As for forensic scientists, they're like the instruments. Some are violins, others are pianos. The kind of sound these instruments produce depends on how the musicians play them. In other words, as part of the courtroom process, forensic scientists must inspect the evidence without taking any side. If the crime scene is in a bedroom, there must be bloodstains on the floorboards, and this evidence is crucial for a conviction. Dr. Lee, pay attention to the color reaction. Wait a minute, let me handle this. Hello, this is the Connecticut State Police Forensic Science Center. This is Dr. Lee speaking. Dr. Lee, this is Robert Shapiro. Long time no see. How have you been? Is your workload manageable? Oh, it's okay. Crime never takes a vacation. It's been over a year since we last met. You didn't just call to ask if I'm busy. Did you, counselor? The more you make small talk, the more I feel you're coming to me with bad news. Let's cut to the chase. I'm currently defending a murder case that's been widely reported in the media. O.J. Simpson is accused of killing his ex-wife. Although I haven't been closely following the case, everyone around me is talking about it. So, what's the story? Do you need our lab to analyze any evidence? It's not that simple this time. Dr. Lee, I'd like to invite you to be the forensic scientist for the defense team. I know you mostly work for the prosecution, presenting evidence that convicts criminals. Many notorious figures have fallen because of your work. I know this time is different. You need my help. There are many doubts at the crime scene, especially regarding the bloodstain evidence, which is your area of expertise. I might have to disappoint you. I'm not familiar with the O.J. Simpson case, and I don't even know who O.J. is. Oh, come on. With your busy schedule, you probably don't have time to watch football games. O.J. Simpson is a retired football player who also acted in Hollywood and did commercials. He's a household name in America, so that's why you can afford to hire me. With so many titles, he must have a lot of resources. Dr. Lee, I'm sure you could find other experts for this case. I have many cases on my plate right now, and the victims are ordinary people who might need me more than OJ does. They can't afford a good defense lawyer like you. Dr. Lee, I believe you wouldn't want to see an outstanding athlete, someone who climbed out of the black underclass through hard work, suffer an undeserved fate. Whether it's undeserved or not, nobody can say for sure right now. I've already sent my assistant to send you some information about the crime scene. It's all confidential, but take a look and see if you can help. I'd be very grateful. Well, as I said, I'm not sure if I have the time or the willingness. Oh, and one more thing, let me correct you. It's not about helping you. I only look at the evidence. If the evidence favors the prosecution, I'll say it in court. Sam, what are you doing here? I was just passing by. I'm sorry, Dr. Lee. I didn't mean to eavesdrop. I'm really sorry. I was just curious about your thoughts on the O.J. Simpson case. I'm interested in the case, but I'm afraid I have to go now. I don't want to be accused of killing someone to cover up evidence. Right. I'm really sorry. All right. I'm not blaming you. Everyone is paying attention to the O.J. case these days. Oh, by the way, Sam, since you moved to our Connecticut Crime Center earlier this year, we haven't had a chance to chat much. What do you think about the case? You're asking me? I'll be straightforward. I tend to believe that O.J. is the murderer. First, a glove was found in the yard at the crime scene, and a matching glove with bloodstains was found at O.J.'s house. Second, a pair of bloodstained socks was found on the carpet in O.J.'s upstairs bedroom. Third, and this was disclosed by the media, the victim, O.J.'s ex-wife Nicole, was found dead at around 11 p.m. on the evening of June 12th. O.J. had no solid alibi between 10 and 11 p.m., and he even flew to Chicago around 11 p.m., which could easily be interpreted as fleeing the scene after the murder. To be honest, I suggest you stay away from doing any forensic work for the defense in this case. It's a hot potato that could easily backfire. Besides, last year's Michael Jackson child molestation case already caused a huge uproar in the United States, and O.J.'s case involves racial issues between blacks and whites. It might not be good for your career. I'm sorry, did I say too much? Go ahead, you've already been quite bold. Well, as a Chinese-American immigrant, it's already tough, not to mention in an industry that's not very friendly to Asians. They always think we're only good with numbers and lack courage. I can imagine how difficult it's been for you. If you don't have a particularly important reason, maybe you shouldn't get involved. Thank you for your honesty. To be frank, I'm not the 100% selfless person that people think I am. I do have my doubts. Dr. Lee's hesitation is very real. Unlike many people in the American justice system who come from privileged backgrounds and hold important positions, such as Robert Shapiro, who comes from a legal family and has defended famous clients like Marlon Brando early in his career, Dr. Lee's journey has been extremely challenging. Born in Rigao County, Jiangsu Province, China, in 1938, Dr. Lee moved to Taiwan with his family as a child. After his father died at sea, his mother had to raise more than a dozen children alone, and the family was very poor. In 1960, Dr. Lee graduated from the police academy and became a police officer in Taipei. In 1964, he arrived in the United States with only $50, working part-time jobs while studying in New York for 10 years. He worked as a restaurant waiter, a securities clerk, a Chinese martial arts instructor, and a lab technician. While juggling 3 part-time jobs, he completed his 4-year undergraduate degree in 2.5 years, majoring in criminal law and biochemistry. In 1979, he became the director of the Connecticut State Police Forensic Laboratory and the chief forensic expert. Dr. Lee, the fax materials have arrived. I won't disturb you further. Sam, would you like to join me in taking a look? I need a different perspective. In his office, Dr. Lee turned on the television and found that almost every channel was replaying the details of the O.J. Simpson case. For higher ratings, some programs had even begun conducting psychological analyses of O.J. Simpson as the perpetrator, going to great lengths to invite his former teammates who claimed to know him well. There were criminal investigators, legal experts, TV pundits, and old friends participating in interviews. I've been friends with O.J. for over a decade. I was also a good football player back in the day. There was this one time in Wuhan where we scored a Hail Mary. For those unfamiliar with American football, It's like a last-minute game-winning play. But in American football, a Hail Mary is rare and requires a bit of luck. We used to shout Hail Mary together. What do you think, Dr. Lee? Do you think O.J. could have killed Nicole? Did he show any tendencies? Well, if I had to say, I suppose it's possible. He used to look down on us, saying we didn't work hard enough. He could be quite dismissive. Dr. Lee frowned. The intricacies of this case would likely take longer to unravel than he had imagined. Sam, bring me the crime scene photos again this morning and the magnifying glass. Have you noticed anything? What time did the police retrieve the bloody glove from O.J.'s house? Let me see. 6 in the morning. Check the weather in Los Angeles on the evening of the 12th. If it didn't rain unexpectedly, then this glove needs to be questioned. Look at this picture. Although the resolution is not very clear, my experience tells me that the glove the detective is pointing to appears very damp. See the reflection? And the blood on the nearby leaves is semi-dry. What you're saying is, what could cause a bloody glove that fell at around 10 last night to still be damp after 7 or 8 hours? Dr. Lee had discovered the first inconsistency in the case. Like untangling a knotted ball of yarn, this loose end would begin the unraveling of the century's most famous trial. The quest for the truth had just begun. Sam quickly rushed out of the office to look up information and, a few minutes later, confirmed what Dr. Lee had suspected. Dr. Lee, I just checked the newspaper. You were right. There is indeed a problem. Did you find it? The lowest temperature in Los Angeles that day was 17 degrees, and the highest was 26 degrees. It was clear with minimal blood. The glove doesn't add up. Sam, I can't worry about the political implications. I'm going to get involved. I need more information next.